Hello and welcome back to I Create For You. We're going to do a story out of the Yellowstone Ghost Stories book, and I'm going to play something really quick. This is so cool. I just got this. Let's see if I can get it to work.
You have chosen an excellent resting place.
Isn't that so cool? I just had to play that for you. It's that time of the year. Spooky season. Alrighty, let's jump into this ghost story. The lake never gives up its dead. It's funny because when I saw that title, it made me think of the Kernsville Dam is not far from where I live right now, and it's just down the road from us. And it seems like every summer somebody drowns or gets lost and scooped up in that mess of a area. And I remember one lady was interviewed and she said that the Kearney never gives up its dead. So that's what made me think of this story. Yellowstone Lake is not only the park's largest lake, but one of the world's largest freshwater lakes as well. Geological evidence tells us that this mysterious lake may have at different times drained into the Pacific Ocean, the Arctic Ocean, and the Atlantic Ocean. The lake is 20 miles long, 14 miles wide, and has 110 miles of shoreline. The deepest point is 320 feet deep in the West Thumb area, and the overall average depth is about 139 feet. Because of its altitude of 7,733 feet and the fact that it's fed by melting ice and snow, the lake stays an average of 41 degrees when it's not frozen. The lake's low temperatures makes it an extremely dangerous environment, especially when prevailing southwesterly winds produce waves 5 to 6 feet high. Many a soul has been lost in the lake. Most people who have drowned in Yellowstone National Park have done so in Yellowstone Lake. There have been approximately 40 drownings, mostly due to boating accidents. Once a boat swamps or overturns, there is little chance of survival. Victims have only about 20 minutes before hypothermia begins to set in. Death from the cold temperature is almost certain. The first documented deaths were in 1894 when 3 men took a small rowboat on the lake on July 4th. The men headed for Stevenson Island with a supply of beer and plans to celebrate. When they didn't return that evening, a search began, but it was in vain. No one was found, just a little boat floating upside down near the shore of the island. The 3 bodies were never found. Another drowning accident that took place prior to 1930 was just as mysterious, if not more so. In fact, the story ended up being rather bizarre and is most likely the very basis for the legend that Yellowstone Lake never gives up its dead. The evening of August 26, 1906 started out like any other evening. A party of 6 young men and women set out in a small rowboat at West Thumb. Their destination? Nowhere in particular. They were just out to have an enjoyable time. Not more than 100 yards from the shore, the small boat started to take on water. The weight of the 6 passengers was just too much and the rowboat started sinking. Panic struck and the passengers frantically started bailing, but the rowboat continued to fill. Soon it capsized and threw everyone into the icy water. The 2 young women must have had the hardest time, as the bulkiness of their dresses and petticoats would have made it almost impossible to stay afloat. Against all odds and with all of her might, one of the ladies swam ashore. One of the men, A.D. Taylor, with the aid of another male passenger whose name is not known, helped the second young lady. By this time the sun was down and the icy lake was becoming colder by the minute. It is not clear how, when, or in what condition the survivors were found, but only 4 made it through the disaster. W.B. Taylor, a brother of A.D. Taylor, and Harry Allen, an Army private stationed at Fort Yellowstone and assigned to the West Thumb Soldier Station, both lost their lives in the cold darkness of the lake that night. It's not certain if they died from hypothermia or drowning, but like those before them, their bodies were never found. Here is where the legend comes in. The Taylor brothers were from Bozeman, Montana. About 4 months after the accident, Major Pitcher, the acting superintendent of Yellowstone National Park, received this somewhat odd letter from their father. Dear Sir, I write to you to know if you have ever learned anything from the 2 men drowned in Yellowstone Lake the 26th of August, 1906. One of them was my son, W.B. Taylor, the other one of the soldier of the Thumb, Allen by name. The reason why I ask is my son was a member of WOW and was insured. In that long wishes us to write to you to see if you have learned anything of them or so or not, so you will please let me hear from you in regard to the matter. I have been told by many that the lake never gives up its dead. If you know this to be the case, you will please make a statement to this effect at your earliest convenience and oblige. G.P. Taylor. Whatever were Major Pitcher's beliefs concerning Yellowstone Lake, he was not at liberty to share it with Mr. Taylor. It was true that a substantial number of bodies drowned in the lake were never found. Major Pitcher did, however, feel that the family of W.B. Taylor needed reassurance of some kind. Why he chose to write to Mrs. Taylor instead of Mr. Taylor is again a mystery, but the letter was as follows. Dear Madam, replying to your letter of December 13th, I regret to inform you that the bodies of the 2 men who were drowned in Yellowstone Lake have not been recovered. Should the body of your son ever be recovered, you will be promptly notified. I am not able to state as to whether or not the statement that the lake never gives up its dead is true. Yours respectfully, John Pitcher, Major 6th Cavalry, Acting Superintendent. Strangely enough, park rangers who work on the lake have reported seeing what they thought were bodies floating to the surface or swept onto the shores. These bodies were said to be dressed in clothing of a century past. In fact, about a year after the Taylor accident, an employee of the lake's boat company discovered a human skull washed up on the west shore of Stevenson Island. Thinking that it might belong to W.B. Taylor, the family was notified as promised. Unfortunately, the little flesh remaining on the jaw and skull and the left ear and teeth were not enough to make a positive identification. Nevertheless, it was decided that it probably belonged to either Taylor or Allen. Later, other bones believed to be Allen's were also found and buried near the lake shore. The Yellowstone Lake isn't the first lake to keep its dead. Lake Erie had several locks in Europe are said to hold the same power. But why? There are several theories, both scientific and paranormal. Scientifically speaking, the lake is so cold that the bodies almost freeze, become heavy, and sink to the bottom. Paranormally, most water deaths, because of the tragic nature of the accidents, make it difficult and even impossible sometimes for the spirits to move on. In this sense, even if the body is eventually found, the spirit remains trapped in the cold lake and does not move into the next world. There is an old legend attached to the rime of the Ancient Mariner, which says that those who die at sea gather together to await Judgment Day. Perhaps the whispers of Yellowstone Lake are really the voices of the drowned, beseeching the coming of their Judgment Day. I've seen that lake. That lake is huge. It goes on forever. I mean, it's just amazing. how big that. I definitely wouldn't venture out there, especially knowing that no sooner you are on the water and you get capsized, you're stuck. You're doomed. So, okay, I'm going to try to draw what I'm thinking. I'm going to make this the water. Okay. Now, this is going to be a chintzy one, but you'll get the gist of it. Just bear with me. It'll look like something or other. I don't have my big one handy. It'd be a lot better. The deepness of the ocean or the lake. Yeah, we've got some pretty pictures there. I might do a short on just the pictures, some of the pictures I have of the lake. If I can find them in my 50 million pictures on my phone that I really need to work on getting out of there. But yeah, let me see if I can find my bigger one. Aha, I found it. Let's see if I can. This will work faster. The murky depths of the lake. Oh, I can feel falls among us now. It's got a lot cooler out. I mean, the when you get in the sun, it's a little bit warm, but it still has that chill to it. Husband's loving it. Me, not so much. At least my body's not. So I'm gonna try to draw this illustration that I got an image of best that I can. Yeah, like my little bell. I thought that was just fitting since my last name's Bell. That little spooky bell thing. That's pretty cool. Alrighty. Now, my image is going to be like, someone either just drowning, or maybe has drowned and is just in a state of limbo, caught in the here. No, wait, let me get you guys down there so you can see better. I keep forgetting to zoom you in. I can hear you yelling, I can't see. What are you doing? Yeah, this is either someone who has just lost their life or someone who is perpetually stuck in limbo. So, let's see if I can draw this. The best that I can. It's a beautiful lake. Beautiful, but after reading this, it's kind of haunting to me. I just, man, I didn't even know that it was like that cold all the time. But that makes a lot of sense with it, with the glaciers, the snow caps and everything coming down from the mountains would make it so cold that it would hold that temperature like that. That's just unbelievable. I didn't even know there were that many. I didn't really know any of the history of that. Let's just put it that way. So this is like, when what you're hearing is like I'm just hearing, so it's not something I already knew. It's sad to know that so many people had lost their lives. So, I mean, that's a horrible way to go, I think. The sudden shock of feeling that, and then you're like terrified, panic sets in. It's just horrible. Yeah, I think that's one of the ways I would never want to find myself in a situation I would want to find myself in. I wonder if that's why I have such a fear of like going over bridges that are over water, because I just don't have I have that fear of drowning. I guess anybody would really, but yeah. Not only do I have a fear of heights, but and I remember one time I was my son was in Scouts, Boy Scouts, and we had to go to Virginia for the Boy Scouts Jamboree. And of course, my mom and dad went with, and to support him and stuff. And it was my mom, my dad, me, and my daughter, and my son. And we were dropping him off there. Well, lo and behold, me and bridges don't mix. Wouldn't you know, I think it was the world's largest freaking bridge ever. And it seemed to go like, I'm just going to quick draw this. When you went up the bridge, it was like real high up and then went down. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And it was at the point where my dad and I were taking turns driving. We were the only two that could drive at the time. And and I had to be the one at that moment. But my dad was scared of heights too, so that made, like he was happy that he didn't do that. So that's my interpretation of either a lost soul or someone just losing their life in the lake, which is a sad way to go. So I'd like to hear some comments of what you think. If you ever heard about any of your lakes or areas that have that little notation as they never give up their dead. And I think it would be interesting to know if there are other areas that have that kind of background. And I think we have a few more in this book, and then I guess I could try to finish up the presidents and then move on to either the Civil War stories or the haunted school stories. I know the haunted school stories ones; those are really long ones. So thank you for stopping by, and I'm going to play this. I think it's going to do a different one. I gotta play this again.
You have chosen an excellent resting place.
Love that. Love it, love it. Oh, he's got another one.
And in the darkness you will find me.
That is so awesome. Anywho, thank you for stopping by. Give me a thumbs up if you liked my content today, and comment if you have any other relationships to this story, and subscribe if you haven't, because we have plenty more to go through. Thank you so much. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.